Sorry, sis. Not just your husband, but I ended up taking your house too. Thank you. With a beaming smile, she delivered these devilish words. Such laughter is only for now. The sister who stole the dream of a newly built single-family home and a happy family. A foolish husband who abandoned his family deceived by his sister. There is absolutely no future where those two will be happy. I have decided to fight for the sake of my daughter. I am Ashley, 33 years old. My husband, Paul, is 35 years old. Our daughter, Mia, turned 5 this year. Paul and I met at the same workplace. Though we were in different departments, we had mutual acquaintances and got along well, which led to our marriage. Recently, something joyful happened. Despite the hardships of both of us working and managing childcare and household chores, we finally managed to acquire our long-desired new home. We were meticulous about the floor plan and interior. And Mia and I even chose the color of the wallpaper for her room. We were all excited about living in this new home that we had dreamed of. Until that incident. Wow. It's so big and beautiful. The visit by my twin sister, Stacy, was truly sudden. Though we are identical twins and look very much alike, our personalities are completely different. She is sociable and adept at everything. As for me, I was shy and preferred reading books over playing with friends. She used to come to my classroom with her friends just to ridicule me. Are you really twins? You look a bit alike, but you're so different. Stacy is cuter. My friend said this while looking at me, the plain one with thick glasses. And Stacy happily responded. It seems I got all the good parts when I was born, sorry, big sis. A past I'd rather not remember. Because of such a relationship, we hadn't been in touch at all since becoming adults. Naturally, I hadn't told her about the new house either. Yet, here she was, out of the blue. My sister was mysteriously hyperactive, but I was just bewildered. I went home after a long time, and Mom told me that Big Sis had built a house. So I wanted to give a moving-in present and asked for the address. And what about that gift? As if hearing my internal voice, my sister laughed and answered. Ah. Of course the gift is a lie. Obviously, why would I need to give you anything? At home and at school, they called me a sister, and when we were together, she always referred to me as a yo. I could only sigh at her unchanged maliciousness. Ah. I see. Well, if you've finished your tour, could you please leave? My husband and child will be back soon, and it's almost lunchtime. Today is a holiday, and the two of them will return from the nearby park soon for a family-only lunch. Oh, then I'll wait and have lunch before I go back. Impossible to share a meal together. Absolutely impossible. I only made enough for a certain number of people. I'll take your portion then, since I'm the big sister. Over 30 years old and still shamelessly asserting her position as the younger sister. And claiming to be the elder due to being born a few minutes earlier. I'm home. With Mia's voice, the living room door opened, and in came my husband holding hands with her. They both looked at my sister with surprise. She looks just like Mom. I hadn't told my daughter that her aunt was her twin. My sister greeted everyone with a smile and voice that she usually reserves for others. Hello. I'm Stacy, your twin sister. Nice to meet you. Sorry to disturb you, brother-in-law. I didn't want to contact this sister, introduce her, have a wedding, or communicate after giving birth, so this was their first meeting. Ah. Hello. Nice to meet you. I had explained about my sister to my husband. That's why he had a look of, why is she here, on his face. But he seemed somewhat pleased as well. My sister, with her long eyelashes and clear double eyelids, and her makeup done perfectly, looks younger than her actual age. Her hair is carefully curled, and she wears tight clothes that emphasize her large chest. Meanwhile, I was in my pajamas all day, doing housework, with my hair sloppily tied and looking disheveled. With a tired face and swollen features, wearing thick glasses and no makeup, my sister definitely looks more attractive. Unable to speak up in front of my daughter, we ended up having lunch together. My sister completely ignored my interested daughter and talked only to my husband throughout the meal, laughing in a high-pitched voice. "Paul, you're really funny. And you dress well, you must be popular. Why did you marry my sister?" She looked back and forth between my husband and me with a "why her" expression. Indeed, my husband is more sociable and dresses fashionably, and has a cheerful personality. So he is quite popular at work. But he is surprisingly shy with the opposite sex, and I was his first relationship. Because he's not used to it, he's completely taken in by my sister's flattery. No, I'm not popular at all. Stacy, you're cute, you must be really popular, right? What is this, a mixer? It's disgusting. What was supposed to be a relaxing holiday became a time of sheer endurance. What? I'm not popular at all. When I am, it's with weird guys. I just kicked out my short-tempered, argumentative boyfriend I was living with until recently. It's too big to live alone, and the rent is high, so I'm thinking of moving. Saying this, she glanced at me and smirked, continuing the conversation. Hey, you have spare rooms here, right? Could I stay for a while until I find a new place? What? How shameless can this woman be? What are you talking about? Of course, it's impossible. Don't just come here and say whatever you want. I didn't want to exchange words, but I had to intervene before the conversation went in a very bad direction. She's in trouble, and if it's just for a short period, why not? We do have unused rooms. What? That was an unexpected suggestion from Paul. Yay! Thank you, Paul. I haven't agreed to it. It's incredible that you can just come here and meet our family for the first time and say something like that. No staying over. Just eat your meal and go. Holding back my anger, I just said that and got up from the table. Oh? So we can become friends from now on? After meeting a few times, we'll get along just fine. I'll come again then. After saying what she wanted, eating, and finally leaving, my sister said she would come again. A joke, right? Why did you say that? I told you, common sense doesn't work on her. If we show a kind face, she'll take advantage and stay forever, not do any chores, and treat this place like a hotel without contributing to the living expenses. After all the things she has done to me in the past. Defending her like that. But she didn't seem like the person you told me about. She's bright, articulate, and seems like a surprisingly good person. My husband, easily deceived by my sister's outward appearance, was extending his grinning face in a daze. I couldn't suppress my anger at my husband, who was visibly smitten. How can you say she's a good girl when she asks to live at someone's house upon first meeting? Make sure you never let her in when I'm not around, okay? Absolutely not. Pressured by my determination, my husband nodded. All right. It's scary how jealous women can get, being sisters and all. Jealous? What are you talking about? That's what I mean, jealousy. You say she bullied you in the past. But isn't that just an inferiority complex from being compared to Stacy? He used to listen so compassionately and comfort me when we were newlyweds. I've told you before, it's not about feeling inferior. She always wanted other people's snacks, toys, and clothes, and took them for herself. I've been tormented by her selfishness for so long. However, my husband seemed utterly uninterested in my story, responding with a nonchalant well, it's just kids being kids. He said what he wanted to say and then lay down on the bed. I sighed at my husband's callousness, siding with a stranger over his wife. Was he always like this? Disappointed, I went to sleep feeling troubled. For a while, because I took time off for the move, work piled up. And I had many late nights at the office. On the days I worked late, my parents or my husband would pick up Mia from daycare, which allowed me to work with peace of mind. I felt bad for my daughter, but on my days off, I made sure to spend plenty of time playing and bonding with her. However, my husband often had errands to run on my days off, and it became rare for the three of us to be together at home. One evening when I returned home, I heard an annoying voice echoing up to the entrance. "To, big sis, welcome home." Exhausted from overtime, I came home to find my sister drinking alcohol with a sense of entitlement, despite my clear instruction never to let her in. It was 9 p.m. Mia was probably asleep. In the living room, it was just my husband and my sister. Seeing my sister for the first time in 3 months, her face was flushed, and she seemed quite drunk. The table was a mess with cans of beer and various snacks scattered around. "Why are you here? I told you I'd come again. Plus, how can you leave your husband and child and come back so late?" "Hey, welcome back." Stacy's been having trouble because her ex-boyfriend has been showing up at her house, so she's scared to go home. I couldn't just leave her alone. My husband was nodding as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Then she should go back to her parents' home. No way. Whenever I see Dad and Mom, all they do is lecture me. Get a proper job, stop drifting around. It's much more comfortable here. And Paul is here too. She now casually called him by his first name and looked at my husband with a cloying gaze. My husband was too drunk to hide his delighted expression. "Fine. If you clean up and sleep in the living room, I'm going to take a bath and go to bed." Too tired to talk and not wanting to eat, I decided to go straight to sleep. The soothing sight of my daughter's sleeping face was brief, as I could hear their irritating voices all the way upstairs in the bedroom. It's unbelievable how a married man can be so overly affectionate with such a woman right in front of his wife. I thought it was incredibly foolish and utterly disgusting of my husband to be so smitten in front of me. The next day when I went to work, I ran into a colleague from Paul's department in the bathroom. "Is Paul okay? He called in sick today because he's not feeling well." What I saw in the morning was the messy table and my sister sloppily sleeping on the sofa, while my husband didn't come out of the bedroom. Probably, my husband, not strong with alcohol, had drunk too much and was hungover. So I took Mia to daycare and went to work without speaking to him. "Thank you for your concern. I'm sorry for suddenly taking the day off and causing trouble." "No worries, but you've been taking a lot of time off recently. And even when you are here, there are many mistakes. Everyone is worried because you seem off. A lot of time off." I did take time off for the move, but recently I've been stable and my health hasn't been bad. Recalling the behavior of the two yesterday, I had a bad feeling. Though I felt guilty, I decided to leave work early in the afternoon. I'm not honestly ready to face the truth, but I still need to verify it. I slowly opened the front door, making no noise, and headed to the living room. Peeking inside, sure enough, the two of them were together. They were snuggled together on the sofa, with my husband embracing my sister from behind as they watched TV. I expected it, but seeing it in front of me, my head was about to explode with anger. I clenched my fist and violently slammed the living room door open. "Ashley, My sudden appearance startled my husband, who quickly stood up. While my sister just smirked arrogantly, that same happy smile she had when I felt miserable. Why suddenly? I heard you were sick today and took a day off, so I came back because I was worried. I heard you've been taking a lot of days off recently. Are you skipping work to cheat with my sister while I'm sweating at work? Were all those errands you had on holidays just excuses to meet her? My husband looked guilty like a child caught lying. But then he suddenly became defiant and raised his voice. Do you have proof that I was meeting her? I hate how logical and critical you are. What proof do I need when I just saw you two embracing? That's what I mean. I can't stand your high and mighty attitude. From now on, I'll live here with Stacy. You should leave. Huh? I couldn't comprehend my husband's thought process. Blaming me and even trying to kick me out after his own infidelity. You're always busy with work and don't pay attention to me. You don't bother with makeup or dressing up, and you don't see me as a man anymore. Stacy sees me as a man, listens to me, and praises me. My sister was smirking and clinging to my husband's arm. It's your fault, big sis. You don't cherish your husband even though you got such a nice house and he treats you well. You're always too busy with work and the kid. Is striving at work for our home and cherishing time with our child equivalent to not caring for my husband? Since my sister showed up, my husband has been frequently missing work and getting overly familiar with another woman in a house with a child. Isn't he the one neglecting the family? But I'm glad you came back early. We decided to talk tonight. The contract on my current place ends the day after tomorrow. And I wanted to move my things here tomorrow. She was laying out her selfish reasoning, disregarding my feelings and pushing ahead with her plans. Sorry, big sis. Not just your husband, but I ended up taking your house too. Thank you. With an innocent smile, she spoke those devilish words as if my rigid expression didn't matter. My husband continued as if to excuse himself. Yeah, I wanted to live with Mia together too. But Stacy said she was scared to suddenly become a mom. So, for now, please take care of her. I see. Your own happiness is more important than your daughter or me. I understand clearly now. With those final words, I wanted to be alone and headed upstairs. Are you going to pack? Please leave as soon as possible. She called out with a laugh. Beyond anger, my heart was so cold I felt nothing. But hearing my daughter's name tightened my resolve. I must fight for her. I'll think this through and act decisively to protect my daughter. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. After opening my eyes, I pulled out my cell phone from the bag over my shoulder and made a call to someone. Now, the counterattack begins. I will make sure they understand that I am not the same person who used to be passive. About 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. What? Dad, Mom, why are you here? When I went downstairs, there stood my parents with stern faces. In front of my astonished husband and wide-eyed sister. Yes, the ones I had called earlier were my parents. Realizing it was me who had summoned them, my sister snapped at me. You called them? Complaining to parents at your age? Quiet, Stacy. What in the world are you two doing? My father is usually mild-mannered, but he can be very intimidating when angry. And he was indeed formidable now. What do you mean what? We are in the middle of divorce discussions. It's none of Mom and Dad's business. None of our business? How can it be none of our business when you're doing this with your own sister's husband? Yes, sir. I am so disappointed in you, Paul. I thought you were a responsible man who would protect Ashley, but to do something this foolish. With my parents' arrival, my husband, who had been frozen, was nudged by my sister and finally spoke. I'm really sorry. But this is a marital issue, and it's not about one of us being at fault. We just haven't been able to maintain a good relationship as a couple. My husband explained, sweating nervously. Are you trying to blame me? Saying it's a marital issue? You never talked like that before meeting Stacy. Otherwise, why would we have built a house to live in together? That's your side of the story. You're always busy with promotions. Pretending to be busy while neglecting housework and childcare. Not bothering with makeup or dressing up, and not supporting your husband. Aren't you embarrassed as a woman? So that was it. My husband couldn't stand that I had been promoted before him. While I was on maternity leave, I advanced in my career. Which must have deeply wounded his pride, and to hide his pettiness. He pretended to be cooperative in housework and childcare. How petty. Too petty. A small dish? No, more like a tiny sauce dish. Since when does not getting promoted before your husband constitute supporting him? Don't you think the problem lies with yourself for not getting promoted? And what about Ashley have you been looking at all these years? You knew she was never into makeup, always hardworking and diligent. I appreciated my mom's backup. Exactly, I hardly wore makeup even before we got married. Where did the guy go who said he loved me without all the adornments? And he used to complain about not wanting promotions because it meant more work. Yet he envied others. Huh? Come on. Anyway. Parents have no right to interfere in marital matters. Please leave. And take Ashley with you. Judging that he couldn't win with a lie made up on the spot, he tried to kick us out. Oh, Ashley, the divorce papers for Paul are already filled out. So just write yours and submit it. Here, take this. I'll have the movers pack the rest of your things later and send them to your parents' house. Stacy. What are you doing? Despite my mother's attempt to stop her, Stacy pushed a divorce form at us, urging us to leave. So you want a divorce, huh? When I turned back to confirm, my husband nodded as if it were a given. That's what I've been saying, you just don't get it. The house is in my name, so I'll keep it, and I'll pay child support. Fine, let's get divorced. The satisfied look on my husband and sister's faces suddenly turned pale. But since we are divorcing and I'm moving out, you need to properly return the $300,000 our parents lent us to buy this house. I presented the loan agreement right in front of them. What? Yes, when buying this house, $100,000 of the down payment came from our savings. And the remaining $300,000 was borrowed from our parents. A proper loan agreement had been prepared. It was a gracious offer since it saved us from the higher interest rates of regular loans. And of course, my husband and I were grateful. Or so I thought. Huh, but I'm the one living in it as a daughter, so I don't have to pay it back, right? We're family, and I was told not to worry about repayment. Paul also said it was fine. My sister feigned ignorance. Huh? We set up a repayment plan and even signed a loan agreement. And now you say we don't have to pay it back? What do you think our parents' money is? I had made sure to explain it to my husband. Even though my parents are financially comfortable. You never know what expenses they might face in the future. Trying to default on money borrowed under a formal agreement, even if it's from family. Were their expressions of gratitude all lies? Our parents trusted us enough to lend us that money. Dad also said if we ever had more children and found it hard to pay, we wouldn't have to force ourselves. He even mentioned turning it into a gift if necessary. At my husband's words, my father's face turned crimson as he retorted. Even if that were the case, to think you would cheat on your own sister. Abandon your precious daughter and granddaughter. I have not a single penny to give to such a despicable person. Just pay back the money properly. Hey. I'm also a daughter. It's fine if she leaves and I live here. I'm not even working right now, I don't have any money. Quiet, you're no daughter of mine anymore. You've always tormented Ashley. Despite all our warnings? To think you'd continue such behavior even as an adult. I'm cutting ties with you. Never show yourself to us again. It seems my parents were fully aware of my sister's behavior and had been cautioning her. But nothing improved, and she just grew up the same way. Still, my sister kept arguing, unable to accept being told off. Since you're not working, sister, try to repay it yourself. Oh, right. Since you two caused this divorce, you'll also have to pay compensation. I'll have my lawyer contact you later. My husband's mouth opened and closed, wanting to say something. But he was just left showing a foolish face, unable to speak. Having prepared my immediate necessities earlier, I picked up my suitcase, and the three of us stepped outside. My mother hugged me, her eyes tearing up. Ashley, I'm sorry you had to go through this. I never imagined Stacy would do something like this. If only I hadn't told her where we live. It's okay, Mom. It's not your fault. Her personality will never change. I'm relieved the ties are cut now. My husband and she are perfectly matched selfish people. I have no regrets. Sorry for dragging you into this, and thank you for coming. I'll hire a lawyer and make sure they pay back every penny. Don't worry about the money, put yourself and your child first. You must be tired today, let's go pick up Mia and head home to rest. Today truly exhausted me physically and mentally. So I took my father's kind offer to rest at my parents' home. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Having strong supporters like them made me feel I could keep going. A few days later, my dad introduced me to a lawyer friend to handle the compensation claims against the two. And the repayment of the money borrowed from my parents, and of course, child support for Mia. Though we worked at the same company and I was anxious. The rumor that my husband cheated with his sister-in-law and was getting a divorce spread quickly. He became shunned by everyone, left all alone. Where did that rumor start? Well, all I did was explain the reason for my address change. And various divorce procedures when I took leave from work. I was fortunate I didn't have to change my name back to my maiden name since it remained unchanged even after the divorce. Did you tell my boss? That was one phone call I received from my husband. You must have made me out to be the bad guy. No, he was already such a villain that no embellishment was necessary. Oh, by the way, your boss also heard that his wife cheated and they got divorced. He said he heard rumors about you and absolutely cannot forgive someone who cheats. What? So maybe that's why he's been hard on you? Serves you right. Maybe now you understand how unreasonable your actions were. And how much they trouble everyone around you. With that, I said what I wanted to say and hung up the phone. Sometime later, when I heard that my husband had resigned, I jumped for joy that I wouldn't have to see his face anymore. Afterward, jobless and having spent savings on the house purchase, my husband had no money left, and Stacy, still unwilling to work, reluctantly had to let go of the new house. Fortunately, a buyer was found quickly, and the money borrowed from my parents was repaid sooner than expected. But there was still compensation and child support to continue paying. Having held no significant position and being older, it was tough for my husband to find another job. And he and Stacy, with nowhere to go, begged their in-laws to let them live at their house. But with Stacy's personality, she neither did any housework nor worked, and was so self-centered that her in-laws were desperate for them to leave, and pleaded with my husband to move out. Initially, when my in-laws rushed to apologize to us after hearing the whole story from my husband, we had some communication. but I couldn't help but chuckle when they finally managed to kick them out. Stacy had also come to our house once to ask for money. But my angry father grabbed her by the scruff of the neck and threw her out. She hasn't come back since. The last time I saw her, Stacy, who once prided herself on her looks, had no trace of her former cuteness and had aged significantly due to poverty and unhealthy living. It seems my husband wants to separate from Stacy now, but since she refuses to work, she vehemently refuses to leave him. And they are still relying on his meager salary, living together in an old, cramped apartment. But as for me, it was just spite that she stole my husband. They never really loved each other to begin with. It's easy to imagine what a loveless, moneyless life they must lead. I was planning to rent a house near my parents, but they told me there was no rush and to settle down first. So I decided to let my daughter stay with us at their house for now. My parents adored my daughter, and although she initially seemed lonely without her new home and dad, she was gradually enveloped in their warm affection and began to smile again. Thanks to my parents' help, I've done well at work and will soon be promoted to lead a newly established department. Mommy, you're amazing. You work so hard. I want to be a cool woman like you. My daughter Mia said this as she patted my head. Ah. It's the best reward for all my efforts. With my daughter and parents who love me just as I am, I've gained confidence in myself. I resolve to live in a way that makes my daughter proud to think of me as a cool mom.
You're in there, right? Just open up. Come on, give me a break. I was just enjoying my time in the new house, feeling good. Open the door. Not wanting to disturb the neighbors, I reluctantly opened the front door. You're infertile and you dare stay at home? I don't recognize you as my daughter-in-law. My husband and his mistress were standing there, along with my mother-in-law. What? For my new daughter-in-law and the grandchild that's coming, I'll take this house as a gift from you, so please leave. Yes, get out of here now. Goodbye, infertile lady. Oh, they really say whatever they want, not knowing they're mistaken. My name is Cindy. I'm a 43-year-old office worker. My husband, Nathan, is a year younger than me. We don't have children. I thought it would happen naturally, but it didn't. We discussed it many times and chose to live just the two of us. I have no regrets. Although our studio is old and cramped, it's comfortable. Saving for our own house and living modestly is not so bad. Recently, I was assigned to the planning department at work, which I had always wanted. My efforts in the tough sales department paid off. I'm being promoted steadily and have become a dependable person in the company. Saying work is my passion isn't an exaggeration. However, it seems different for my husband. What? You quit your job again? Yeah. Without consulting me. I was too shocked to speak. The boss was too much to handle because I refused the transfer. So you quit because of that? It ended up that way, but I'm the victim here. It was a wrongful dismissal. I sighed. Then you should sue for compensation. No, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. Is that so? I know the truth. He wasn't wrongfully dismissed. This is just a bad habit of his. He can't keep a job for long. It's not that he's unserious, but suddenly he gets fed up and quits. It has become normal for him to change jobs every 2 or 3 years, and it's tiresome how it disrupts our finances and lifestyle. As a partner, I can't tell him to endure a job he hates. But we're in our 40s now. Changing jobs repeatedly only increases the disadvantages. In moments like this, I'm glad we don't have children. I can support us, and if something happens to me, he should be able to support me. Though I knew it, re-employment didn't go well, and time just passed. His age and background as well as the timing were issues. He was getting frustrated. He just sighed all day at home, not doing any housework chores. If he had time, he should at least clean up the mess he made. I have more right to be irritated than you. I thought about complaining. It's tough when there's no escape in a small house. Let's calm down. Quarreling would do us no good. I held back my urge to blame and watched over my husband. The job he finally got was as a contract worker at a factory. It wasn't what he hoped for, but it was better than being unemployed. Let's keep trying little by little. Together, we'll be okay. Then one day, I received a call from my mother-in-law. Hello? Cindy? Is that you? Yes, it's me. What's the matter? I heard you've been cold to Nathan. What? I was so surprised I made a strange sound. I had no idea what she was talking about. Isn't it terrible how you treat Nathan after he was wrongfully dismissed? Wait a minute, Mother. I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean? That's what I want to know. You've been harsh, haven't you? Telling him to get to work and clean up? Why would it turn out like this? Sure, I made sarcastic remarks like, I hope you find a job soon, and please pick up your things. But it was never in a commanding tone. This is also a bad habit of my husband. Whenever something happens, he immediately tattles to his mother and even exaggerates the story. I do think the mother-in-law is at fault, taking him seriously, but I wonder when he will ever become independent. It's too much. Nathan doesn't blame you, does he? Well, there's no reason for him to. What are you saying? You deserve to be blamed, Cindy. It's your fault we don't have grandchildren. What? There are things more important than work, aren't there? It might be too late when you regret it. Why is it my fault that we don't have children? It seems my husband has been making convenient fabrications. We decided together, yet I feel betrayed. He probably wants to maintain his image, but siding with his mother to make me out to be the villain is like child's mischief. We are a couple who will spend a long time together, and we must not lose trust. With that thought, I decided to talk to him that night. Please don't exaggerate things to your mother. If you have complaints, I want you to tell me directly. Let's do that for our future, okay? My husband, visibly annoyed, started messing with his smartphone midway through our conversation. Hey, listen to me. You're being noisy. I'm getting work messages. Saying that, my husband stood up and left the discussion, heading straight to the bedroom. Is he in a bad mood, or just tired from factory work? It can't be helped. We'll talk another time. But the next day, he refused to talk again, claiming he was tired and sleepy. The following day, he returned home in the morning after a company welcome party. He spent the entire holiday sleeping off a hangover. After that, he continued to come home late due to overtime and socializing. He's clearly avoiding me. He's trying to let things fade into obscurity, but that won't solve the problems. I hate being unfairly blamed by my mother-in-law. I rub my sleepy eyes while waiting for him to come home. This is a problem we shouldn't postpone just because it's troublesome. Around the time the date changes, my husband returns home cheerfully humming a tune. Welcome back. Whoa. You scared me. What's wrong? Surprising, right? You were awake? I was waiting for you. What? He looks annoyed. Why are you avoiding this? You're noisy. You've been acting strange lately. You're so persistent. If you have something to say, leave a note. A note? Was it agreed we'd settle things without discussion? Oh. To remember such old things, you really are persistent. I'm stunned. Has he forgotten our marriage vows? I said an ideal couple understands each other, and he agreed. I think so. I used to like your seriousness, but now it's inflexible and burdensome. That's so. If you don't want to lose me, change your attitude. There are other women available. What do you mean? Just what I said. Are you cheating? The recent actions of my husband come to mind. You're lying, right? What have I done? I told you, you're persistent. Do you want a divorce? Don't say things like that. He clicks his tongue, pulls out a green paper from his bag, and thrusts it at me. It's a filled-out divorce form. Why this? I was asked to write it. By whom? You know without me saying. No, I don't. There's a woman who wants me to submit it. I'm at a loss for words. Did my husband write the divorce papers at the request of his mistress? Don't get cocky knowing this. You're useless without me, so know your place. I hold the divorce form with trembling hands. I can hear my heartbeat. What time do you think it is? I'm going to sleep. You go somewhere and cool your head. My husband disappears into the bedroom. I stare at his name written on the divorce form. What was he feeling when he wrote this? Was he late coming home today because he was meeting his mistress? How ridiculous I was, supporting him in his new job. My head spins with confusion. I can't think of anything. Just as he said, I should cool my head. I silently leave the house with only my valuables and essentials. 1 month later. I haven't returned home since then. I've tried to contact my husband several times, but there's been no reply. This room is quiet and comfortable. It calms my mind. The sunlight shining through the windows brightens the still empty living room. The ventilation is good. The cool air touches my cheeks, prompting me to take a deep breath, absorbing the scent of the wood. Then, Cindy, you're there, aren't you? Just open up. An irritating voice makes me frown. This loud voice is definitely my mother-in-law's. I could really do without this. Just when I was enjoying my time, feeling good. Cindy. Not wanting to bother the neighbors, I reluctantly opened the front door, making an obviously annoyed face. I knew you were here. It's been a while. She said happily, trying to push her way inside, so I pushed her back. Please wait a minute. Why? What's wrong? I thought. Can't you see my face? I'm refusing you. Wow, this place is pretty nice. Behind the mother-in-law, for some reason, my husband was there. And who's this young girl standing next to him? Smells like a new house. It's nice. Yes, it's really nice. The three of them naturally tried to come into the house. They're incredibly bold. Wait. How did you find out about this place? Why? First, answer my question. Why do you always treat Nathan so terribly? What? Leaving everything behind and running away from home, you're the worst wife. Just because you don't like Patty. Patty. Ah, that girl. I see, she's approved by my mother-in-law. Wait. Did I run away from home? I thought I was told by my husband to go somewhere, and felt like I was kicked out. My husband, cozying up to the gal, provocatively looks at me. It's a spec home, but the room count is just right, and the interior taste is not bad. For that, I'll forgive you for buying a new house without permission. What? But, living together is impossible. After all, being infertile makes you look bad in society. What are you even talking about? Be thankful for the time I've spent with you. What? Confused, I tilt my head. Nathan, I'm tired. I want to sit down. Sure, Patty, sorry. Cindy, let Patty sit inside. No. What? Patty is pregnant with Nathan's child. What? Pregnant? This is news to me. Yet, surprisingly, I don't feel much shaken. Why is that? After so many shocking events, I can't believe this is reality, or perhaps I don't feel anything anymore. You should respect a pregnant woman, right? I guess you wouldn't understand, being infertile. Oh, is that so? Don't you get it? I don't recognize you as a daughter-in-law anymore. I'll take this house as a gift from you, so please leave. Yeah, get out of here quickly. Yeah, goodbye, infertile lady. How can they say such things without realizing their own misunderstandings? I won't give you this house as a gift. Even if you tell me to leave, this house is in my name. What? Besides, we are already divorced, aren't we? What? Surprised husband and mother-in-law. Is it really so surprising? Weren't you the ones who handed me the completed divorce papers? What do you mean, Cindy? Weren't you planning to start a new life with us? I never had such intentions. The mother-in-law flusters and the husband rages. What are you saying? This house was bought with my money. What? Unbelievable. They haven't read any of the emails I sent. You really don't know anything. That night my husband handed me the divorce papers. All the endurance I had as a wife blew away, and I was filled with a sense of release. My heart was full of joy, and I couldn't think of anything else. What, is my free life starting now? When I realized this in excitement, I felt dizzy. Excitedly, I signed the wife section of the divorce form and submitted it first thing the next morning. I neatly divided the savings and transferred half to my husband's account. Given how much I've earned over the years, I think most of the savings are mine, but I wanted to avoid any disputes. I sent an email saying, "Let's discuss this through lawyers from now on." I spent half of the savings I split with him and the bonus I received later as a down payment to buy a new house. I covered the rest with a loan. A loan? How can a homemaker get a loan? I'm amazed by my husband, who sounded sort of looking down on me. Well, if you hadn't been constantly changing jobs, maybe you could have gotten a loan. What? You wouldn't know since you don't manage the household finances, but my salary is twice as much as yours. This seemed to hurt his pride, and he was shaking with anger, and even Patty looked shocked. Nathan, this isn't what you told me. You said we'd live in a luxurious new house, didn't you? Oh, calm down, Patty. Poor man, my ex-husband, was really shaken up. I've been the one supporting our finances all this time. To think he planned to live with his new wife and mother-in-law too, it's outrageous. Cindy. She seems about to boil over with anger. This is unforgivable, it's fraud. Mother, who wrote the divorce papers first? And who encouraged him to write them? It was that girl there, your future daughter-in-law, right? It's great that you have a grandchild on the way. Anyway, we will take the house too. Her nostrils flare with arrogance. As I have said, that's impossible. Such a big house is too much for you alone, isn't it? I plan to live here with my parents eventually. What? What is this daughter-in-law saying? No, I am no longer your daughter-in-law, we have nothing to do with each other. And who knows, maybe there will be another wonderful encounter. I wouldn't say it out loud, of course. What will I do? I was all set to live in this house. She looks dejected. What happened to the apartment you used to live in? That old place? I sold it. You sold it? I saw you moving appliances into this new house by chance and contacted Nathan right away, and he invited me to live together. So that was it. Then, the only place left is the small, old studio I used to live in. Not that I feel any sympathy. Unlike a tough career woman like Cindy, having a young, obedient daughter-in-law and grandchildren, I thought I'd have a secure old age with a new house. I wish she would stop speaking ill of others while looking so forlorn. Who's tough? If my husband weren't so pitiful, I wouldn't have had to be so firm. Oh, what a letdown. But don't worry, I'll go back and tell everything to my dad. Patty seems defiant. What? Wait, that's... If my dad gets angry, it will be serious. You better take responsibility. Patty, please, not that. As for why my husband got this young gal pregnant, she was an office clerk at his company, and one thing led to another. After a drinking party, he brought her home on a whim, and surprisingly it just happened. She wasn't just a regular employee, but actually the daughter of the factory manager. Raised in a girls' school, this lady, despite her flashy looks, had no experience with men. Indeed, my husband was her first partner, and of course, she had no idea he was married. She believed his typical adulterous line. My wife and I have grown apart, I'm about to get a divorce. She even went to the trouble of preparing a divorce form for him. That's good, she seems to become quite a capable wife. May she find happiness? Well, that settles it. Please feel free to do as you please from here. Wait, please. He clings to the door as I close it, which makes me feel scared. Cindy. Don't you have any maternal feelings? What do you think of the new life about to be born? Yes, he is right. We will take this house as a gift for the birth, I said with a full smile to my desperate ex-husband and former mother-in-law. Congratulations, goodbye. I mercilessly close the door and lock it. I'll leave the rest to my lawyer. But it wasn't as simple as I thought. After all, people who demand someone else's house won't back down easily. I can ignore the resentful emails from my husband by replying, "Please communicate through lawyers." But the problem is the mother-in-law. She leaves long messages on the answering machine, which are truly annoying. Because of you, I've become a homeless old woman. Could you at least arrange another apartment for me? This house is too cramped and suffocating. When I told Patty to do the housework, she said, "Why don't you do it?" What am I supposed to do now? I'd like to delete these voicemails right away, but they might be useful, so I'll save them. Their demands might escalate. After all, they are shameless people. Then one day, an unwelcome guest arrived at my house. The doorbell rang without prior notice, and I thought it might be Nathan or his mother, so I considered calling the police while clutching my smartphone. There stood a stern-looking man with piercing eyes. I'm on guard. This man, I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. But I couldn't possibly know such a rugged man. Could this be a scam disguised as a door-to-door sales pitch? May I ask who you are? I am Robert, the factory manager. Suddenly, it struck me. Patty's father, the factory manager. That's right, that girl said she would. Tell her dad. Nathan and Patty appear behind the factory manager, smirking. They've brought some strong reinforcements. Dad, tell her. Father, please make her suffer. The factory manager's lips turn into a frown, and he furrows his brow, clearly very angry. What if he demands a nuisance fee or childbirth expenses? As I decide to call the police and look at my smartphone, I must say, yes. The factory manager apologized deeply. I am terribly sorry. After saying this, he glared at Nathan and Patty and forced them to apologize to me. Apologize, you too. What? Dad? Why? This isn't what we talked about. I watch in astonishment. What on earth is going on? Don't misunderstand. I brought you here to apologize to this lady. What? I truly am sorry. My daughter has taken your husband and even demanded your house. Yes, that's correct. Nathan and Patty start to panic. Dad, you knew? Yes. All those stories about being deceived or having your house taken away, weren't they all lies? Where did you hear that? Nathan's mother told me everything. The factory manager clenches his teeth in anger. He says he was seduced by the former mother-in-law. Now that we're family, let's get along well, in many ways. Your daughter stole my son. We should get along just as well. You only have to buy me an apartment, and you can visit anytime you like. Of course, the factory manager politely declined. I'm speechless. To think she was my mother-in-law. Nathan, all you do is talk about what suits you, and I'm disappointed in you and your mother. That's not fair. I've always been faithful to my wife. Don't joke. Stop it, Dad, you're scaring me. You too. What? I've spoiled my only daughter too much. Neither of you is needed at my factory. There's a place with a devilishly tough work environment. Go work there and rethink your lives. What? The factory manager then turns to me and says, "Does this suffice as an apology?" Yes. Why would you go to such lengths? I would like to maintain a good relationship with you moving forward. I was utterly confused and once again found myself staring at him as he was smiling. Then, it struck me. That's right, from long ago. He was the head of the administration department at a company I frequently dealt with during my sales career. Oh, I didn't recognize you. I apologize for that. Now it was my turn to apologize. There's been a merger, and now I'm managing a new factory. It's understandable that you didn't recognize me. I see. I couldn't believe it when I first heard that your husband was working at my factory. The factory manager looked away, making a troubled face. Has he been causing any trouble? His work attitude is poor, he doesn't learn, and he even has unexcused absences. You, being such a capable wife, are quite the opposite. I could easily picture my ex-husband's irresponsible behavior, but it wasn't surprising at all. Since I'm no longer his wife, there was nothing for me to defend or apologize for. I could only offer a wry smile. I intend to retrain him from scratch. I'll make sure he never has to come here again. Nathan had become small, and Patty looked displeased. You were always good at training newcomers. Yes, I am quite strict. I'm cheering you from afar. Even with Robert's efforts, reforming Nathan seemed doubtful. Ultimately, it's up to him to change his ways, especially for the sake of the innocent baby about to be born. There's one thing I regret not clarifying, the misconception that infertility was my fault. We had once visited a hospital together to investigate the cause of our infertility. It turned out I had no issues, but my husband was diagnosed with asthenozoospermia. While natural conception wasn't impossible, it was unlikely. Whether Patty's pregnancy was a miracle, or whether they were just extraordinarily compatible, or if the child was someone else's, I no longer care. It was during a work-related call that the factory manager updated me. Apparently, Natham, his mother, and Patty ended up living in that old, cramped studio for a while. They promised to try hard on their own for the baby's sake and to save money and work diligently. But soon, Patty couldn't stand that life anymore. No wonder. My husband probably didn't realize, but living on his income alone would be barely manageable, or could be even impossible. If 3 adults lived freely without saving, the savings I gave him at the time of our divorce would quickly run out. Patty moved back to her parents' home after giving birth and never returned. In the meantime, Nathan quit his job because he hated it. My ex-mother-in-law, in a panic, even caused a police disturbance by showing up at the factory manager's house, demanding that he return her daughter-in-law and grandchild and take care of her. How pathetic. Everyone is too selfish. But since I am no longer involved, I declined further updates. Good luck, factory manager. My new home is very comfortable. I worried about being alone and what I would do if I got sick, but I never thought it was good to have a husband at home. Living now feels just like when I was living alone before. I believed that spouses should support each other, but my husband only leaned on me. The absence of someone who was never necessary to my life hasn't caused any problems. 7 years later. My parents, whom I called from the countryside, now live comfortably in my well-acclimated home. And a former colleague from the sales department lives with us, too. He was the man who always competed with me for the top sales spot. Since I moved to the planning department, he said he missed our rivalry. I felt the same. After learning of my divorce, he promptly asked me out, and now he has become a husband I can fully trust. Having worked together for many years, he's someone with whom I can speak my mind without holding back. He truly is the ideal man. Here's to a long and happy life together.
Grandma, Mom isn't moving. Help! Late at night, I was abruptly awoken by a call from my granddaughter. When I asked my sobbing granddaughter, "Where's your dad?" I received a shocking response. He kicked Mom's belly and left. In a panic, I rushed to their house to find my daughter unconscious on the floor. Later at the hospital, I learned something unimaginable from my granddaughter. How could he do this? I'll never forgive that man. At that moment, I decided to seek revenge on my son-in-law. My name is Amelia. I'm 65 years old and recently retired from a company where I had worked for a long time. My husband passed away a few years ago, and I've been living alone since. I have a daughter. Her name is Emily. Emily works at a bank and married a public servant named George 7 years ago. They had a child, Sophia, who is now 5 years old. My son-in-law George was gentle and polite, so I felt at ease leaving Emily with him. Emily, who lives about 30 minutes away by car, often brings Sophia to visit, and I cherished the moments with my adorable granddaughter. One day, as usual, my daughter and granddaughter came over. Emily and I were sipping tea, watching Sophia play with a smile. Speaking of which, it seems George got transferred recently. Yes, he moved to the Child Future Division of the Health and Welfare Center last month. Oh, is that the division that supports child rearing? Something like that. He's been very busy, often coming home late at night. I used to think that government workers always got off work on time. But it seems times have changed. I thought George, being so kind-hearted, might be well-suited for a job in welfare and child-rearing support. It sounds like he has a lot of overtime. It must be tough. You have a demanding job too, Emily, but be sure to support George. If you ever need help, like with picking Sophia up from daycare, let me know. Thank you. And with that, she left, holding Sophia's hand. After that conversation, Emily stopped visiting for a while, occasionally messaging with responses like, "I've been busy lately, sorry I can't visit you." I didn't want to intrude too much on their lives, and I felt it wasn't my place to tell Emily to come home. More than anything, I hoped that they were living peacefully and happily. One day, while I was out shopping, I saw George. He was in a suit, driving an official car, and next to him was a young woman. I had heard from Emily that he sometimes had work-related outings, so he was probably on duty. I didn't think much of it at the time and wished him well in my heart. About a month later, on a Sunday, I had an errand near Emily's house and thought I'd stop by. However, despite waiting, I received no response from her. I felt concerned and didn't want to just head home without checking. So I decided to visit Emily's house. I thought if she wasn't home, that's fine, and if she had something else to do, I would just leave. However, when I rang the doorbell, I immediately heard her daughter's voice. "Mom, what's wrong?" Emily, sounding surprised, seemed unaware that I had tried to contact her. I told her over the intercom that since I was nearby, I wanted to see her. But Emily seemed hesitant for some reason. Just then, I heard George's voice. "Mom, please wait a moment, it is a bit messy in the room." "Oh, George, I'm sorry for coming unannounced." "It's okay, please meet Sophia too." After waiting for a while, the front door opened. To my surprise, Emily looked significantly thinner than when I had seen her 3 months ago. "Emily, what happened? You seem to have lost so much weight." My daughter replied with a forced smile. "I've been dieting." Sensing something was off, George kindly offered me slippers. "Thank you, George." As I entered the living room, Sophia excitedly greeted me. "Grandma, I'm so happy to see you." My beloved granddaughter's joy made me smile, and she tugged on my hand, inviting me to play. While playing with her, I chatted with my daughter and George about casual topics. Suddenly, Sophia spilled the coffee I had been given. Though the coffee was lukewarm, I checked to ensure she wasn't burnt. And to my horror, I discovered a painful-looking bruise on her arm. Emily, what happened to Sophia's bruise? Startled, I looked at Emily, who seemed frozen, unable to respond. Seems to have fallen while playing. It's nothing serious. It doesn't hurt anymore. I trusted their words and felt relieved. Emily took Sophia to change her wet clothes, but they took a long time to return. George went to check on them, and after a while, all three returned to the living room. Mom, we have plans to go out soon. Oh, I wasn't aware. I'm sorry for intruding. As I was leaving, the family saw me to the door. I patted Sophia's head, thanked George, and waved goodbye. Emily's expression seemed clouded, which bothered me, but I pretended not to notice and went home. Weeks later, in the middle of the night, my phone rang. The call was from Emily's mobile. Groggily answering, I was met with Sophia's tearful voice. Grandma, Mom isn't moving. Help! What? Sophia, what happened? Where's your dad? He kicked Mom's belly and left. Panicking at the situation, I told her to unlock the front door and rushed to their house. Upon arrival, I found Emily collapsed in the living room. She was unconscious, and Sophia was sobbing beside her. However, there was no sign of George anywhere. With trembling hands, I took out my phone and called an ambulance. Soon, the ambulance arrived, and I accompanied Sophia inside. Inside the ambulance, the atmosphere was tense. My anxiety grew, and I could feel my heart racing. Arriving at the hospital, while praying for my daughter's safety, I comforted Sophia by rubbing her back. Sophia, calm down. Can you tell me what happened to your mom and dad? Sophia began to speak, occasionally sobbing as she tried her best to explain. Well, when I woke up, Mom and Dad were fighting. Dad was yelling something at Mom. Then, what happened? I went to Mom and begged Dad not to hurt her. But then Dad got angry with me, just like he always does, and Mom shielded me. I was taken aback by this shocking revelation. Does it mean that Emily and Sophia were often mistreated by George? When I asked, Sophia nodded affirmatively. According to her, after shielding Sophia, Emily was pushed by George and then brutally kicked while she was down. George left immediately, and Sophia, seeing that Emily was motionless, panicked and sent an SOS to me. But Dad told me, if you ever tell anyone about me hitting you, you'll never see your mom again. I told you, so does that mean I won't see Mom anymore? Realizing the pain and hardship Sophia had been enduring, I held her close, tears forming in my eyes. Sophia, you've been so brave. It's all right now. Who would have thought that George, who always seemed so gentle, had such a side? It was hard to believe. But considering the injuries on Sophia and Emily's recent behavior, it made sense that George had been physically abusing them regularly. While I was deep in thought, the doctor who was treating Emily came over and began explaining her condition. The doctor said she had internal bleeding, and there was a possibility of ruptured organs, so she would be undergoing surgery. She's in a critical condition. Please be prepared for the worst. I repeatedly tried to call George to inform him, but I couldn't get through. Signing the surgical consent form, I anxiously awaited the end of the emergency operation. Outside the operating room, I was trembling with fear and anger, clenching my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. I will never forgive that man for hurting my daughter and even my granddaughter. I'm determined to make him pay. At that moment, I noticed Emily's phone tightly gripped in Sophia's hand, who had fallen asleep leaning on me. Picking up the phone, I discovered something shocking and immediately took action. Later, Emily's surgery was successful, but due to the anesthesia, She remained unconscious, and her situation remained critical. I entrusted Sophia to a trusted friend and stayed by my daughter's side. Around noon, George casually appeared in the hospital room. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't notice the calls. I was working." "What? Work? More importantly, what did you do to Emily?" I glared at him and shouted, making him shift his eyes uncomfortably. "What are you talking about? Emily fell on her own." "I was working, so I don't know the details." When I told him I had heard everything from Sophia, George sneered. "You're taking a child's word for it? Please don't blame me falsely." "Still trying to play innocent, huh?" In anger, I gritted my teeth and murmured, "You're lying about working, aren't you? You went to see the woman you're having an affair with, right?" I pressed him further, and George frowned in annoyance. "What are you saying? I worked late for my family, and you dare accuse me like this?" I shoved Emily's phone screen in his face while he was making excuses. "Are you still trying to deny it after seeing this?" The screen showed evidence of George's affair. Him kissing a young woman in an official car, entering a hotel. The woman was someone I had seen in town that day. "What is this?" "That's not all. Emily's diary is also on this phone." "What? After you were transferred, your attitude towards Emily and the others changed. She suspected something and had a detective agency investigate." Jesh never said anything about. It was written that 2 months ago, when Emily confronted George about a possible affair, he suddenly became violent towards her. He had frequently abused her since, even injuring Sophia. Knowing she had been threatened by George to keep quiet and didn't want to worry me, Emily hadn't been able to confide in me. She had even taken out a loan to hire a detective agency to gather evidence of the affair, having had her savings book taken away by George. The most recent diary entry read, "I've finally gathered all the evidence. I'll bring up the divorce today." During their discussion, George must have kicked Emily in the stomach. As I said this, he began to sweat profusely. "No, this is a misunderstanding." Unable to bear his excuses any longer, I shouted at him in anger. "What do you mean, misunderstanding? Having an affair at work and injuring your wife and child. What were you thinking?" George shifted his eyes again, gesturing for calm, saying, "Come on, let's calm down. Let's settle this quietly for both our sakes. If this gets out, I'll lose my job. And who knows what will happen to Sophia. You understand, right? Isn't it already late?" "Who?" "I've reported everything to your workplace, with evidence, including your affair and how you injured Emily and Sophia." Well, their daughter had not only recorded evidence of the affair, but also an audio of the time George became violent. I compiled it all in an email and sent it to his workplace. "Do you understand the consequences of doing such a thing? Everyone will be unhappy." I stared coldly at the flustered George. "Isn't the child future section of the Health and Welfare Center meant to help mothers and children in distress? What's wrong with consulting them about actual events?" George was at a loss for words. Suddenly, his phone rang. As George answered, he looked pale and flustered, muttering something. When he hung up, he looked furious. I was confronted by my boss. "What have you done, old woman?" George, with a demonic expression, approached me menacingly. I pushed him away. "I've also got a medical certificate for Emily's severe injury this time. Prepare yourself. I'm reporting this to the police." "What? The police? Old woman, enough is." George glared at me with bloodshot eyes, but at that moment, Emily woke up and spoke in a hoarse voice. "George, let's get a divorce. I will raise Sophia." The next moment, hospital staff, alerted by the commotion, rushed into the room. I explained everything and they called the police. George, who tried to attack me, was restrained by the hospital staff. He was yelling as he was taken away by the police. The rest of the story. Emily recovered and successfully divorced George. Emily claimed damages from her ex-husband and his mistress. George, facing charges of assault against Emily and Sophia, was detained by the police. Adding to my accusations, George, already known for poor work ethics, was suspended due to the incident. He's still on trial, but if convicted, he may be dismissed. It seems he's been abandoned by his family and friends for his malicious deeds. George's mistress took a leave from work due to the affair becoming known at their workplace and eventually resigned. After some time, Emily, who won the property division, repaid her debts and returned to our family home with Sophia. Living with my gradually smiling daughter and innocent granddaughter is noisy yet joyful. I look forward to enjoying Sophia's growth and hope for a peaceful life ahead.
Hey, check out my girlfriend, she's a model, you know? She's way out of your league. Following her husband's words, his partner also chimed in. You have zero charm, girl. I'm more suited to be a wife. I'll take your rich husband from you. Without any shame, and having brought her lover into the house, she hurled cruel words at me. It seems my husband chose to be with her despite the significant social barriers. He spat these parting words at me. I'm divorcing you, the jobless, obese giant of a wife. Stop leeching off me. I never knew when this day would come, but I was somewhat prepared for the imminent divorce. A year after the divorce, I faced an unexpected situation. I was forced to attend my ex-husband and his lover's wedding. Why do I have to witness their happiness? I wondered, but it no longer mattered to me. It was the perfect opportunity to make them regret. My name is Emma. As I turned 27, I was juggling a side job while living the days as a full-time housewife. Lately, or rather for a few years now, I've been reluctant to go out. No wonder, since I now weigh over 200 pounds. I developed a disease at a young age and have been taking medication, which caused this weight gain due to its side effects. Though it's unavoidable because it's a side effect. Still, I manage my daily life thanks to my husband. My husband, Ned, is a top salesman at a major corporation, competent at his job. His annual income is higher than that of his peers. We now live in a high-rise apartment in the city. Our first meeting was a few years ago. I worked at the same company as my husband. We met when I was transferred to the same department as him. Back then, he was a senior who took care of me from scratch. Even when I made mistakes, because I was new to the job, he guided me intensively, helping me adapt well to the new department. Day by day, I grew closer to him. It was inevitable that we would fall in love. At that time, I was of average build and seemed to be somewhat popular in the department. Embarrassing if it was a misunderstanding. Ned boasted about dating me to everyone, and indeed, being with Ned, who was a top sales performer, felt like a status symbol to me. At the company, I got along well with the bosses and was the envy of many as Ned's girlfriend, to put it mildly. Ned also seemed to like me a lot, and I remember that time as very happy. Emma. Good morning. You look cute today. He would say, like a line out of a shoujo manga, nonchalantly in front of others, making my days both delightful and embarrassing. However, having not had a glamorous youth, I felt like I had become the protagonist of my own story, which was true at the time. Simple and gullible, but those days weren't so bad in hindsight. Thinking about it now, it was truly like living a dream. Ned cherished me, and I truly loved him from the bottom of my heart. It could be called the golden era of my beautiful, happy life. Yes, it was indeed a golden era when I think about it now. But such days do not last forever in reality. I developed a rather serious illness. The treatment required continuous medication with strong side effects. Naturally, I couldn't continue working, and for a while, I couldn't even manage to go to work. People at work were constantly worried about me, and everyone turned to Ned to understand my situation. I couldn't burden Ned any further, so I decided to break up with him. Ned, I think my illness will progress further. I can't burden you anymore. Ned looked at me with an expressionless face, focusing on one point. Let's break up. I don't want to be a burden to you anymore. I suppressed my feelings and conveyed this to him. However, his eyes met mine directly, and his face turned serious. Indeed, you might have a tough time ahead. But isn't it too hard to go through it alone? Ned continued speaking. I don't want that. I want to be there for you, Emma. Saying this, he hugged me and continued. Let's overcome the hardships together. Marry me. I vividly remember being moved by his heartfelt proposal. I was worried that continuing our relationship would torment him, but eventually, we got married, and I quit my job in what's called a marriage retirement. At that time, I believed in Ned's kindness and held on to hope. But it didn't turn out well in the end. Due to the medication's side effects, I kept gaining weight and eventually reached 200 pounds. After that, Ned's attitude visibly changed. In the beginning, he pretended. Even after I had gained weight, he treated me the same, saying, "You're still cute." But a year later, that facade seemed to have worn off. At 5 feet 2 inches tall and weighing 200 pounds, I was more than just chubby. Given the harsh glances from others, it was evident. In the area where I lived, which was populated by wealthy celebrities, most women frequented spas and gyms to maintain their beauty. For this reason, I stood out in the community. Labeled as the husband who could only choose a fat wife, Ned began to detest me, and eventually, he started monitoring me to keep me out of sight. Walking with you is embarrassing. Pretend you don't know me, will you? I want to exercise too. You don't allow me to go out, so I can't exercise properly. Just start with a diet then. Don't expose your disgraceful body, he snapped, and he started going out alone more frequently. I was forbidden by him to go outside, and I couldn't exercise properly under those circumstances. Fortunately, my illness was cured, but after gaining weight due to the side effects, my body shape did not return to normal, and I struggled to exercise. Due to my frail constitution from a young age, I couldn't manage diets that involved skipping meals, and he even banned me from exercising outdoors. After much deliberation, I suggested buying indoor exercise equipment to Ned, but he said, "Don't waste my money on such things. You probably won't stick with the diet anyway, right? It'll just take up space, so don't buy it." Even when I said I'd use my own savings, he stubbornly refused. It was perplexing why he would go so far as to forbid it when losing weight would solve everything. Well, it's probably because he thinks it would neglect the household chores. Ned has been extremely lazy since we were dating. The house was always a mess, and he relied on me for cooking and laundry. As a result, I often felt like a mother taking care of a poorly behaved son. That trait is still alive and well today. If I even slightly neglect the housework, the whole house becomes a dump filled with trash. It seems he now sees me only as a housemaid. Well, that's how my attempts at dieting were completely thwarted. I've even started ordering everyday items online, and I eventually stopped going out altogether. His dedication to keeping me indoors was beyond frustrating, it was almost impressive. In desperation, I tried to exercise at home, but when he found out, he scolded me. "Don't dirty the house with your sweat." Ultimately, I never managed to lose weight, and the restrictive control over me only intensified. I thought about divorcing him if he was going to treat me like this, but knowing him, he probably wouldn't go through with it because of what people would say. It feels a bit sorry to think that my presence is pushing him to this, but lately, he seems happy. I thought maybe he had finally accepted me, but whenever our eyes met, his face turned into one of disgust, and he looked like he wanted to say, "Don't look at me." These frustrating days just flew by. But then, on a certain Sunday, a day off from work, I learned why he had been in such a good mood. "I'll be home late today," he said with a single remark, and left the house dressed up more than usual. He had been working overtime frequently and often worked on weekends, so he must have gone out to refresh himself. That's what I thought, but he didn't return until the early morning. And when he came back, I could smell women's perfume on him, which told me everything. Tentatively, I asked him, "You came home in the morning. What were you doing? Was at a drinking party with friends? Missed the last train." He replied cheerfully, making me feel sick. "Then what's that sweet perfume smell?" Apparently displeased by my unhappy look, he clicked his tongue. When I pressed him, annoyed by his attitude, he dismissed me with a single word. "Figure it out, fatty." Something snapped in me then. Figure it out? It sounds like you prefer being with a woman who reeks of sweet perfume over your fat wife? You got it. I never imagined you'd get this fat. It's like marriage fraud. But that's because of the medication. You know that, right? All the memories, trust, and love seemed to collapse then. From that day, he stopped hiding the fact that he had a mistress. The following week, he dressed up and went out again. "Going on a date with my girlfriend today. Make sure you clean the house well," he said unabashedly every day. I had grown indifferent and silently saw him off. When I was alone at home, I quickly finished the chores and turned to the computer. After getting through my side job as usual, I killed time watching a romance drama. On the other side of the screen, a beautiful love story unfolded, allowing me to momentarily forget reality. But as time passed, the harsh reality reappeared. When I heard his "I'm home" from the entrance, I had to become the housemaid again. These were indeed gloomy days. However, today was different. Behind the usual annoying voice of Ned, I faintly heard a woman's voice. "Wow, it's spacious." As expected of Ned. When I went to check the entrance, there stood a woman in a revealing dress. Who are you?" Without any hesitation, Ned replied. Without any hesitation, Ned replied. "Oh, this is my girlfriend, Jenny." What? My voice leaked out in shock. It was unbelievable to be suddenly introduced to a lover. Despite the situation, Jenny spoke up. "Wow, really? This is your wife? A wrestler? That's definitely not it." She rudely stared at my body. All I could do was clench my back teeth. Right? Definitely not. The person who should have been defending me, my husband, followed her words and hurled insults at me. "Hey, check out my new girlfriend. Just met her recently, but she's modeling now. She's so much better than you, right?" Jenny continued. "Ma'am, you have zero charm as a woman, don't you feel embarrassed? I'm definitely better suited for Ned. I'll take your rich husband, so could you disappear quickly?" Without any remorse, she spewed cruel words at me. Bringing his mistress to our home, the answer was simple. It seems my husband had decided to divorce me. Overcoming the significant barrier of public opinion, he chose to be with her. Ned spat out his parting words at me. "I'm divorcing you, the jobless, obese giant of a wife. Stop leeching off me." I didn't know when this day would come, but I was somewhat prepared for the imminent divorce, so I managed to swallow the situation. Then, as if to provoke me further, Jenny spoke up. "Hey, old lady. With that body, it's toxic to my eyes, so could you stay in your room? We have guests, so show some consideration, please." I ended up returning to my room without being able to say anything in return. From the living room, I could hear the flirtatious voices of Ned and Jenny, who was supposed to be my husband. Tears welled up in my eyes as I climbed into bed, trying to hold them back. The next day, Ned hurriedly made me pack my things and I was forced to leave the house, feeling like I was being chased out. It was goodbye to the house I had shared with my husband for several years. I felt a bit lonely, but perhaps because I had spent the day crying, my heart felt a bit lighter. I consider myself good at moving on, but even so, it all felt a bit too easy. After being kicked out, I decided to return to my parents' home for the time being. My parents welcomed me warmly. Later, it was decided that we would officially divorce, and I signed the divorce papers and submitted them to the city office. Once the divorce was finalized and everything was over, I calmed down and thought about it. I felt angry at the terrible treatment I had received and the fact that I had been discarded in the end. However, that worthless ex-husband wasn't even worth taking revenge on. I vowed to become a better person, one that would make him regret leaving me. 1 year later, out of the blue, Ned called me. "Hello, it's been a while. What can I do for you?" "Hey, I'm getting married to Jenny soon. What kind of life are you living now? I bet no one would bother with a fatty like you." He probably wanted to brag about his happiness. His trashy behavior went beyond anger and almost brought me relief. "Your unpleasant personality is still intact, I see. We're strangers now, so it doesn't concern me anymore." It was a forced display of indifference, but in reality, we were strangers now, and I genuinely had no interest in his life. While thinking to myself what a daytime drama it was for him to remarry his mistress, I reluctantly listened to him continue. "I'm thinking of inviting you to our wedding. I thought I'd show off how happy Jenny and I are. You're coming, right?" As if I would attend. I was just letting the conversation flow without much thought, but Ned showed no signs of ending the call. "Just come. Jenny's dress is incredibly beautiful. You should definitely see it. It's nothing compared to yours." He kept boasting about his happiness for several minutes. It was becoming irritating. No matter how uninterested I was, he was still my ex-husband. And, after all, he had treated me terribly. Of course, I was angry. Eventually, I gave in to his persistent invitation and agreed to attend. Time passed, and the day of the wedding arrived. Ned was grinning from ear to ear, eagerly awaiting my arrival. "Is that fatso really coming?" Imagine a 200 pounds fatso showing up, the place would buzz. He joked as he waited for the ceremony to start. However, the expected 200 pounds woman did not appear. Ned was hoping to see his ex-wife in an embarrassing state, but the woman who appeared was stunningly beautiful. "Long time no see." "Huh? Long time. Really? Are you a friend of Jenny's from modeling?" I addressed my dumbfounded ex-husband. "Really, Ned? Can't you remember your own ex-wife's face?" "It's Emma." Jenny, who had been watching from behind, seemed too shocked to speak. "Emma? No, what happened? How did you change so much? Did you get sick?" There's no need to be confused. I was fat because of the illness, but I just succeeded in dieting. Yes, I had succeeded in dieting and attained a perfect model figure. After returning to my parents' house, I dedicated myself to dieting. At first, I was stressed by my body not responding as I wanted, but as I gradually saw visible results, my motivation to diet grew even stronger. Originally, my obesity was due to the side effects of medication, so I lost weight faster than usual. Indeed, seeing direct results was fun, and I managed to lose several tens of kilograms in no time. Also, since Ned had forbidden me from going out, I made sure to take extra care of my skin to avoid looking older than my age. Thanks to that, I might say that I became a woman who doesn't look her age. No way. There's no way that 200 pounds fat woman could turn into such a beauty. Oh, I'm flattered you think I'm beautiful. But you know, I looked like this when I started dating Ned. Maybe even better now. The woman in a pure white dress screamed hysterically, which was somewhat comical. Ned still tried to insult me in desperation. Seriously, but even if you look good, you're poor since you didn't work while we were separated. I laughed off his words through my nose. What's with that laugh? Like you're mocking me. Say something, Jenny. Ned, apparently annoyed by my demeanor, turned to Jenny for support. But instead of continuing her tirade, she was pale-faced. This person. Ned, finding her reaction odd, asked what was wrong. Ned, don't you know? She's really famous now. Oh, you know about me? Thanks. In fact, I had recently become a highly visible entrepreneur with a multi-million-dollar annual business. My monthly income was no less than $50,000. When did you start doing all this? While I was married to you? It's been a year since we divorced. I think it's been a few years since I started my business. Originally, I had various ventures while calling them side jobs. In today's age of social media, I could launch my own brand with just a laptop. In particular, I focused on my perfume brand, which became popular among young people after I hired a famous model for the advertising campaign. Interestingly, on the day Ned came home late reeking of sweet perfume, I immediately recognized it as the fragrance from my own brand. Moreover, since losing weight, I have also entered the advertising scene as a model myself. Initially, I was nervous, but being hailed as a stunningly beautiful CEO who could hold her own against famous models and becoming well known on social media felt exhilarating. It seems that Ned, who isn't very savvy about social media or the news, didn't know about me, but Jenny, being a model herself, apparently did. At first, she didn't realize that I was the president of the company. After everything was explained, Ned collapsed to his knees. Damn it. Not only did you become beautiful and slim, but you were also making that much money. If I had known, I wouldn't have divorced you. Jenny, can we call off the wedding? Hearing Ned mutter those words, it seemed Jenny got quite upset. Understandably so. Imagine how infuriating it must be for a woman about to marry, comparing her to his ex-wife and showing disappointment. In a rage, Jenny hurled insults at both Ned and me. Unbelievable. Don't mess with me. And you, don't you dare come out of nowhere now that you've been dumped. Her tone changed completely from before, sounding almost like a child's jealous rant. Your husband is the one who insisted on calling me here today. Why would I beg to come to my ex-husband's wedding? Shut up. Just say no. Weren't you the one who wanted to parade the fat me around? Seems your plans didn't work out. And here I was, bringing a generous wedding gift with me. The attendees seemed quite taken aback by the scene. As I looked around frantically for someone to stop her, a cold voice echoed from afar. Jenny, that's enough. Who are you to tell me what to do right now? I'm really irritated. As the completely out of control Jenny turned around, she was faced with a certain person standing there. Seeing who it was, her face went pale and she froze. Yes, that person was Alyssa, the famous model I had hired for the perfume advertisements. Jenny, you do realize that further insults will only tarnish our agency's name. Jenny was rendered speechless by the icy tone. Alyssa, I mean, there's a reason for this. I was puzzled as to why Alyssa was at this wedding and turned to her. Emma, it's been a while. I suppose you're wondering why I'm at this wedding. She was incredibly perceptive and intelligent. Apparently, Alyssa was a senior at Jenny's modeling agency. She had heard that her junior was getting married and attended the wedding to celebrate. A plausible reason. I had no idea that Jenny's affair with Ned was of this nature. Nor did I imagine she was marrying your ex-husband. Oh, no need to worry about it. I wasn't expecting you to realize. It's totally fine. Still, I deeply apologize for not intervening sooner when you were being attacked. Alyssa apologized deeply. Her responsibility for her junior's misconduct and her display of character impressed me greatly. I assured her that I wasn't bothered and told her to raise her head. Ned and Jenny, who had caused a scene at their own wedding, looked quite awkward. Ned, I'll be leaving now. I was actually looking forward to the reception. Oh, and I put quite a bit more in the envelope than the usual amount. I dressed up just for today, so take a good look. You won't see me like this again. Take care and be happy. Feeling confident and slim, I left the venue with a taste of satisfaction. What a refreshing feeling. I'm so glad I worked hard on my diet. Humming happily, I returned home, but it seems that after I left, the wedding could not proceed as planned and was temporarily called off. Well, it seemed like a natural consequence. Later, Jenny came to apologize at my parents' house. She probably got the address from Ned. However, her apology felt insincere and self-centered. Emma, I apologize for the other day. About the wedding, could you please not tell anyone about what happened? It might damage my modeling career. I'll pay you. I'll have Ned arrange the money. I don't want to be blacklisted in the industry. I wouldn't talk about it anyway. But there were many of your modeling colleagues and industry people at the place, weren't there? Even if I don't say anything, I think your behavior has already spread. Although I had no interest in speaking about it, it was already too late for apologies. One of Jenny's junior models who attended the wedding leaked the incident to a gossip article. Just as expected. It was probably due to jealousy of Jenny's popularity. In the entertainment industry, people are often thrown under the bus, and any small piece of gossip that's grabbed can be exploited. The incident spread quickly online, and ultimately, Jenny was blacklisted in the industry. Moreover, Ned, who had left me and remarried after an affair, was demoted to a regional office after it became known in the company that he had tarnished the company's image by his actions. Since I also used to work at the same company, I told a colleague about my divorce from Ned in confidence, and the story quickly reached HR, resulting in that outcome. Apparently, his salary was significantly reduced, and Jenny, who desired a glamorous lifestyle, did not follow Ned to his new location, and they eventually separated and divorced. At the end of their relationship, she took a considerable amount of money from him, sold their apartment, and now he's living in poverty. As for me, I considered suing Ned and Jenny for damages due to the affair but ultimately decided against it. I am already living a lifestyle akin to that of a celebrity. Currently, my work as a model has increased, and I am more actively involved in multiple activities. Additionally, from my past illness experience, I've started a health and wellness business, and my work is going very well. Looking towards the future, I dream of taking my brand global and influencing even more people. Regarding romance, I've started dating a man I met through work, and I'm receiving lots of love every day and am very happy. We share common hobbies and values, and we support each other's growth and success.
I'm divorcing you, a defective human who can't even cook. And I'm demanding $20,000 worth of shared assets. In the wake of an accident that rendered my left hand immobile, my husband Tyler coldly demanded a divorce. And on top of that, he has the audacity to ask for a large amount of the shared assets. To make matters worse, he commits an unthinkable betrayal. And on top of that, he has the audacity to ask for a large amount of the shared assets. To make matters worse, he commits an unthinkable betrayal. While I remained silent, Tyler's taunts grew louder and more heated. I have no use for a broken product that doesn't work and can't do housework. Pack your things and get out. Really? You're okay with that, Tyler? Feeling partially enraged by my husband's harsh words, I smirked. And then I proceeded to punish the traitor. My name is Madison. I'm 35 years old and live with my husband, Tyler, who is 3 years younger than me. I work from home as a novelist. However, my husband doesn't know about my profession. In fact, I've kept it a secret even from my friends. Because, as modest as it may sound if I mention my pen name, anyone who loves books might recognize it. And while one might ask, so what? It's advice I took from a close friend. I have a best friend from college named Laura. When I once told Laura about my aspirations to become a novelist, she advised me, once you're famous, even people who weren't close to you will try to use you. So it's best to keep it a secret from those close to you. So I even kept it a secret from Laura. On the other hand, my husband prides himself on being an elite businessman, working in sales for a logistics company. I met Tyler through Laura. In her student days, Laura was known for her beauty and had many male friends. Tyler was one of them. When we first met, I thought Tyler was interested in Laura. But he confessed that he fell for me at first sight and pursued me passionately. At that time, I wasn't seeing anyone, and with Laura's encouragement saying, "Why not? Just give it a shot," I started dating Tyler, and we got married 5 years ago. Speaking of Laura, she's had her fair share of relationships, and sometimes even dated 3 guys simultaneously. But among all her relationships, she married a highly capable guy 3 years before we did. Tyler cherished me a lot after our marriage. He'd buy me gifts when he returned from work. And on his days off, he'd take me to various places, just like when we were dating. He never missed giving me presents on birthdays and Christmas. However, as I consumed all his attention and energy, Tyler, who used to be the top salesman at his job, began to struggle and started getting irritated, raising his voice at me. "So sorry. It's not Madison's fault. Don't worry about it. Everyone has their bad days. Don't take it too hard, okay?" "What do you mean by that?" "It's easy for you to say because it's not your problem." I meant to console him, but it seemed Tyler took my words as sarcasm. Such misunderstandings became frequent, and a rift grew between us, leading to fewer and fewer conversations day by day. I decided to discuss this with my best friend Laura. Although both of us had been busy and hadn't met for years, we finally arranged a meetup. And that's what happened. Sounds like he's totally taking his frustrations out on you. Tyler is so narrow-minded. But, don't take it too seriously. Yeah, but the atmosphere at home is so tense. That must be tough. All right, let Big Sister Laura handle it. Oh, I'm saying I'll mediate and help you two reconcile. Really, I'd be grateful, but it also feels like I'm imposing that on you. Laura said, "Just relax. You are in good hands." She then mentioned she would first listen to Tyler's side of the story. At that moment, I thought to myself, having a best friend is truly invaluable. I felt relieved and entrusted everything to Laura. After a while, there were noticeable changes in Tyler's behavior. He began to come home late. Initially, he claimed it was due to hanging out with colleagues about once a week. However, gradually, without any notice, it increased to twice or even 3 times a week. Thinking it was quite unusual for him to be out with colleagues so often, I casually asked him about it. "Hey Tyler, did Laura contact you?" I merely wanted to know if he had heard from Laura, but he immediately became defensive. "Huh, Laura, who's that? Are you suggesting I'm cheating or something?" "What?" He was clearly flustered, plus pretending not to know Laura, whom he should know very well. was suspicious. The most alarming word he used was cheating. I hadn't even mentioned it, yet he brought it up on his own. He didn't say anything about that. And isn't it strange you're asking who Laura is? No, it's not. Oh, Laura. I haven't heard anything. It was clear something was off, in response to my question about receiving a message. He said he hadn't heard anything. It seemed obvious he did hear something from her. Feeling Tyler would not come clear, I decided to contact Lori again. However, despite trying multiple times on different days, there was no response. Laura would usually call back. I felt uneasy about the entire situation, but I decided to wait and see for a while. About a week later, just as he was about to leave for work, Tyler casually said something. "Oh, Laura called. She said she had something to discuss. I won't be needing dinner for a while." What do you mean by for a while? When I asked him that. You consulted with Lori about me, didn't you? That's why I'm going to give her all the time she needs and listen to her thoroughly. Haha. He replied with a smirk. It felt as if he was saying, you set this up by giving her time with me, right? I'll meet her openly. No, I'll cheat on you openly. And that there should be no complaints, as if it was an unspoken agreement. That noon, I finally received a call from the previously unreachable Laura. I'm sorry, I really meant to call you back. Yeah. There was an awkward silence, and then I said just one thing before abruptly ending the call. I trust you, Laura. The desire to believe her was strong. Yet, my words were a bit tense because I hoped she would reassure me. From that day on, it became a routine for Tyler to come home late, and our paths seldom crossed at night. There were also no more calls from Laura. Even so, I tried to keep faith in my best friend. However, one day, my trust was shattered into pieces. What is this, Laura? Why? Tyler had asked me to send a shirt to the dry cleaners. I froze as I was about to put the casually tossed shirt into a bag. A lip gloss mark was on the shirt's lower back hem, which usually gets stuck into pants. This isn't some TV drama. But that pale pink shade was the one Laura often wore. Laura knew I always checked pockets before sending items to the dry cleaners. More than that, she intentionally left that mark. The implication was clear. You know, when I take something I desire, I make sure the other party knows that it's now mine. Ha ha ha. I remembered Laura's proud face when she bragged about stealing her female friend's boyfriend as a student. I felt a chill, just like I did back then. Laura has a history of stealing others' boyfriends and having bad relationships with men. I warned her many times as her best friend. Someday, you'll get your retribution, I said. I never imagined I would become her next target. This can't go on. Yet my body continued to move as if nothing happened. Maybe I don't want to admit it somewhere deep down. Pretending to be calm, I went outside to take Tyler's shirt to the dry cleaners. If I turn left on the main street, I'll find the dry cleaner. Suddenly, I saw a little girl, about elementary school age, walking ahead. Does she look a bit unsteady? She seemed to be walking with an unstable gait. Is she feeling unwell? The street I was on had its fair share of passing cars, and bicycles and motorcycles were speeding by. Feeling it was dangerous, I rushed towards the girl. There's a side street ahead where she's walking, known for many accidents. I caught up to her just as she was about to cross it. Watch out!" I shouted and covered the girl's head as I embraced her, and everything went black. A moment later, amid the pain and drowsiness, I heard someone's distant voice asking, "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" But soon, everything went dark again. When I opened my eyes, blinded by the light, I was greeted by a white ceiling and felt a dull pain all over my body. "Where am I?" I thought I said it in my head, but it came out loud. Then I heard a woman's voice asking, "Are you awake?" followed by a nurse. I realized I was in a hospital, lying in a bed. A woman in a white uniform, presumably a nurse, appeared before me and asked how I felt and if I knew my name. When I confirmed I remembered who I was, she seemed relieved. Then I heard a man's voice speaking with the nurse. It wasn't the familiar voice of Tyler. A man with a worried look on his face peered at me. He was a stranger to me. The nurse then informed me, "He's the father of the girl you saved." The man introduced himself as Robert and the girl as Chelsea. According to the nurse, a car was approaching as Chelsea was unsteadily crossing the side street. I ran towards Chelsea and jumped in front of her, shielding her with my body. Chelsea had only sustained a minor scrape on her knee. She was resting in another room. Her father, Robert, came to apologize for the incident. "I'm truly sorry for what happened. It was my daughter's carelessness." Robert repeatedly apologized. "I'm just glad Chelsea is okay." Though in pain, I managed to muster these words. But the situation was more serious than I had thought. Later, Chelsea also came to apologize. When she showed me a thumbs up with her right hand, I noticed I couldn't feel my left hand. Was it because of the strong impact? I didn't worry too much and watched as the two left after their visit. I was then told a doctor would explain the situation to me. When the nurse asked if I had any family, I gave her Tyler's phone number. It seemed he wasn't available. He must have gotten the urgent message from the hospital because he rushed into my room out of breath as soon as his work was over. Glancing at the nurse who was changing my IV, he said, "Madison, are you okay?" I was so worried after hearing the voicemail. I've been on edge waiting for my shift to end. He's always been good at putting on a show. The doctor explained the situation now that Tyler had arrived. It's due to a severe blow to the neck and chest. Unfortunately, your left hand may never move again. What? Forever? Tyler was shocked and was the first to respond. I didn't miss the slight smirk on Tyler's face as he looked at the nodding doctor. Divorce for being a defective human who can't even cook. And I'm asking for $20,000 worth of shared assets, LOL. In the hospital room, now absent of the doctor and nurses, Tyler boldly confronted me, whose left hand was paralyzed due to an accident. What was he thinking, demanding such compensation? Then, a face I didn't want to see entered the room. Oh dear, poor Madison. By the way, Did you get my message? I responded with a heavy sigh. Well, quite the entrance you two coordinated. Sorry to disappoint. Laura probably came to the hospital with Tyler. She likely sent Tyler first to gauge the situation, planning to make her own appearance later. During the doctor's explanation, I had seen him sneakily texting on his phone. Given how quickly she showed up, she must have been close by. They both looked dumbfounded by what I said, gaping in surprise. I continued speaking to them. So Tyler, that's fine with you? And you, Laura? Bring it on. But I have preparations to make. I'll reach out to you when I'm ready. I know you made a special appearance, but you're bothering other patients. Please leave for today. I spoke calmly without panicking. Tyler seemed taken aback, having never seen me speak so coldly. Laura looked like she was about to talk back, but my glare silenced her. Seeing this, Tyler urged Laura to leave the room and the two left. The next day, I decided to move to a vacant private room. Apart from my hand, there were work matters to consider. More importantly, I wanted to prepare to retaliate against the two who betrayed me. That's when Robert and his child, Chelsea, visited me. Today was a holiday, so both had the day off. Robert, Chelsea's father, introduced himself and told me about their situation. Chelsea's mother, Robert's wife, passed away due to illness when Chelsea was 3 years old. Since then, Robert has raised her by himself. Chelsea has asthma and felt dizzy after using her inhaler during the accident. She often suppresses her feelings not to worry her father, who's juggling work and parenting. I see. But I think, as a child, she probably doesn't want to worry about her father, right? Yes, I understand that. And it makes me feel even worse. Oh, this is my business card. What? I was surprised that the company and department name on the card were the same as Tyler's. There's something wrong. Do you know Tyler Smith? I couldn't help but raise my voice when asking. Yes, Tyler is my direct subordinate. Wait, Smith? Could it be? Yes, Tyler is my husband. What a coincidence, Robert exclaimed in surprise. I decided to explain to him that Tyler and I would soon be strangers. Meanwhile, I noticed Chelsea, sitting on a chair, had fallen asleep. When I asked if it was okay for them to stay, Robert replied, "Just a little longer. If it's not bothersome, please continue your story." I felt a bit embarrassed sharing private matters, but I wanted to talk due to Robert's kind demeanor. Tyler cheating. It's odd for me to say this, but recently, he's been restless, and his work performance has been unsatisfactory. Do you know who he's seeing? I decided to tell him about my best friend Laura as well. What? After finishing the story and showing Robert a two-shot photo of Laura and me from our school days, Robert looked surprised. Is something wrong? Do you know her maiden name? Yes, I do, Robert. Oh, wait, what? I'm sorry. Laura is my sister. She did it again. I thought she had changed after getting married. I was shocked again, realizing just how small the world can be. From Robert, I heard of the family troubles they had with Laura. Every time Laura stole someone's boyfriend, their parents had to go and apologize to the other family. I had no idea, but it seems that at times, Laura even seduced married men, and they were constantly asked for compensation. Due to this stress, their mother's health had deteriorated. It was a heartbreaking story. Now, unlike before, Laura herself is married. But since her husband is often away on business and hardly comes home, Laura might be falling into her old habits. From Robert's perspective, it's a scandal involving his subordinate and his own sister. He no longer sees it as someone else's problem and offered to fully cooperate with me in taking action against the two of them. It's unusual for the families of both the victim and the perpetrator to team up. But Robert has told his parents that he would cut ties with Laura if she causes trouble again. And she's aware of it. Laura probably never thought the universe would turn against her. And she doesn't know I have gained a powerful ally. Tyler probably can't even imagine that his direct boss would side with me. Robert suggested that we keep our acquaintance a secret from them. I need to be hospitalized for the foreseeable future. However, I plan to take action against them only after finalizing the divorce with Tyler. Fortunately, Tyler is pushing for a divorce, so I'm assuming it will happen soon. However, I don't like the idea of him giving me the divorce papers. So I will provide the document first. Robert introduced me to a skilled lawyer, and we arranged for him to come to the hospital since I was in this condition. I'm very grateful for their help. First and foremost, I need to end things with Tyler. I spent a few days preparing the divorce papers and called Tyler. As expected, Tyler and Laura showed up on the next day off. At first, they wondered why I had been moved to a private room. But I told them it was because of the severity of my condition. You're so stupid, jumping out and injuring your hand like that. Madison has always been unlucky, hasn't she? True, thinking of Laura as a best friend was my bad luck. And also, getting married to Tyler through Laura's introduction. I remained unfazed, and they both looked sour. That's my line. I don't need a defective wife who doesn't work or do housework anymore. Pack your things and leave. And make sure you give me $20,000 worth of shared assets. Fine. Here are the divorce papers. Ignoring Tyler's surprised look, I continue. You can file it. Since I've become defective, I can't tidy up. So could you allow the recycling company to enter our home? They'll dispose of things. Do you even understand your position? I am dumping you. What about your future? What will I do? I am not obligated to be concerned by you once you become a stranger. Right, Laura? I glanced at Laura with a pointed look. Oh, aren't you curious about how this happened? She was unfazed, as one would expect from someone who casually steals other women's husbands. She didn't flinch at all. You've always been like this since we were in school, haven't you? I'm not interested at all, but if you want to talk, go ahead. I remain completely unfazed. After all, the real hell awaits them all. Laura's excuse went like this. Initially, she approached Tyler with genuine intentions of listening to him as a best friend. But she became attracted to him, seeing that he had become even more handsome. She figured she'd take him for herself if things weren't going well for him. Rumor has it that her husband, whom she thought was on a solo assignment, ran away upon discovering Laura's history of infidelity. Moreover, it seems that the person who provided this info to him was a woman who had been once robbed of her partner by Laura. I can't help but chuckle at the slow justice being served. Robert probably doesn't know about this, so I'll share it with him later. A few months have passed since the accident. As I had declared to Tyler, I asked a recycling service to dispose of all my belongings at home. Around the time that moving out had settled, Tyler sent a message saying he had filed for divorce and was planning to remarry Laura. It's irrelevant to me now, and about a year after I broke things off with Tyler. This settles it. I carried out my retaliation against the two of them. As expected, Tyler was the first to call. I didn't pick up immediately. Part of my plan. To my surprise, there were 29 missed calls. It was annoying, so I decided to pick it up. Finally, what the hell is going on? I pulled the phone away from my ear due to his shrill voice. Since Robert was with me, I turned down the volume and put it on speaker. You seem pretty flustered. What exactly are you going on about? I responded with ease. I have tons of things to say, but first, the house. A real estate agent suddenly came by and said the house was being sold, and we needed to move out immediately, and even the furniture. Oh dear. That's a rental property under my name, you know. I don't know about the sale, but since we got divorced, I just canceled the lease. However, a cancellation fee is charged if you cancel during the contract period. So it's a contract termination without renewal. As for the furniture, it came with the property. Obviously, you can't take it with you. LOL. Huh, don't make me laugh. Under your name. How did you, who doesn't even work, become the tenant? Oh, sorry, I never told you. My annual income is $20,000, you know. Saying this, she mentioned the name of Tyler's favorite author. That's my pen name. One of the reasons I married you was because you passionately talked about my work. The URL to my official page is listed on the back of every book. If you had accessed it, you would have realized it was me. I had hoped you'd eventually notice, but sadly, you never did. I genuinely waited. If he had found out naturally, I thought he might be the one. He probably hurriedly checked the official page. He seemed to understand I wasn't lying. My face isn't shown there. But he should recognize it. Instead of an author's photo, there's a tattered rabbit stuffed animal Tyler gave me for my birthday, with my initials. Upon realizing my true identity, Tyler tried to make amends and pleaded, almost in tears. Of course, I had no intention of accommodating his requests. After deciding to divorce Tyler, I quickly took action. First, to avoid being located, I transferred to another hospital. I also secured a place to live after being discharged. And through a lawyer, I gathered evidence of Laura's infidelity. This had to be done concurrently with searching for the new hospital. The messages from Laura and the shirt with a lipstick mark I provided will serve as compelling evidence. Not sending it for dry cleaning was the right move. Laura probably thought I had. She seemed shocked when I informed her I had handed it over to my lawyer as evidence. With the gathered evidence, I initiated a lawsuit and claimed for compensation against the two. Of course, I requested them to pay in a lump sum. Meanwhile, Robert was also making moves. I shared the evidence I collected from the lawyer. Plus, it turns out that Tyler met with Laura even during work hours. They were caught doing suspicious activities in the company car, as revealed by the car's dash cam. I reported this to higher-ups, and Tyler was dismissed from his job. Why did his infidelity become known to the company? Tyler must have been utterly flustered. As for Laura, after I demanded a lump sum compensation from her, she predictably ran crying to her parents. This was expected, so I cut ties with her and her family, as promised. In the end, Tyler lost both his home and job, and, to top it off, Laura saw no more charm in him and dumped him. In revenge, Tyler posted on Laura's social media, "Beware of this woman. She has a bad history with men," accompanied by a photo of their selfie. The post spread like wildfire, and soon, no man approached Laura. What a hilarious turn of events. Both of them had borrowed a significant amount of money from shady sources. And naturally, they were under constant watch until they paid back. They couldn't escape. And Tyler ended up in a well-known construction company in that shady world. Laura faced a similar fate, and both seemed to be worked to the bone with barely any rest. They made numerous distressing calls to me, but I ignored them all. Once I confirmed that the compensation had been transferred, I blocked both of their contacts. For good measure, I changed my phone number a little while later. Thus, my retaliation was complete. As for what happened to me afterward, my left hand, which I had lost function due to an accident, is now on the path to recovery after surgery. In fact, during the doctor's initial explanation, I asked the doctor to keep the possibility of surgery a secret from Tyler. I had the doctor omit the words "if not operated on," and only convey, "The hand will become immobile." If Tyler came back to me knowing my hand was disabled, I was willing to forgive his infidelity. However, that gamble ended in my loss. But now, I genuinely feel that everything turned out for the best. Madison, will you become my mom? How could I refuse such a cute proposal from a little girl like that? It's Robert's daughter, Chelsea. Using the excuse of retaliation was just a pretext to get you to the hospital. From now on, can I be by your side and help you, Madison? Robert confessed his feelings for me. Chelsea has grown very fond of me. According to Robert, she's become brighter and talks more than before. I wasn't sure if I could be a good mother, but I accepted the proposal when she handed me flowers, wanting me to be her mom. Robert understands about my work, and now, both my professional and personal lives are fulfilling. By the way, the author's photo on the official page has been updated to a new family picture, showing the three of our hands joined together.